Deep beneath the surface of the soil, hidden totally away from the light of day, there's this world of profound silence. It's a world that appears completely, well, still. But underneath that illusion of quiet dormancy, an extraordinary awakening is about to begin. Just think about a single solitary seed buried in the earth. It sits there, waiting, just waiting for the absolute perfect moment to spring into existence. Imagine we're looking through a microscopic lens, right at the surface of that tiny seed. Out of the darkness, a rhythm starts. It's almost like a heartbeat. The soil around it shifts ever so slightly. And then, the rigid outer shell of the seed begins to fracture. It cracks open, pushing against the heavy weight of the dirt above it. But how? How does a seemingly lifeless speck of matter know that it's time to wake up, to push, to grow? It doesn't have a brain. It certainly doesn't have a nervous system, yet it senses its environment with just incredible precision. Okay, let's dive into this explainer and unpack this hidden communication system, because the secret to everything a plant does really boils down to one thing: plant hormones. Imagine these as glowing, bioluminescent golden particles, rushing, flowing, and zipping through the tiny microscopic veins of the plant. They aren't just random chemicals, right? They are an intricate, highly advanced language. They're literally telling the plant when to stretch toward the sun, when to drop its leaves, when to bear fruit, and exactly how to survive the harshest conditions on Earth. It's a brilliant, high-speed network of botanical intelligence. Section 1. The growth promoters, the engine of the plant. Now, we really need to shift gears and look at the actual engines driving this botanical machine. When a plant decides it's time to grow, it doesn't just casually stretch out. No, it demands explosive, relentless momentum. We're talking about the growth promoters. These are the chemical signals that basically step on the gas pedal. They fire off rapid, high-frequency commands that force the plant to build, expand, and completely conquer its environment. And there are three major players making this rapid expansion happen. First, auxins. Second, gibberellins. And third, cytokinins. They rapidly fire in sequence, communicating across the whole cellular structure of the plant. Each of these specific growth promoters has a very distinct, specialized job in constructing the plant's architecture, and together, they are an absolute unstoppable force of nature. To put this into perspective, just consider the sheer scale of what auxins can do. On a macro level, you have massive, lush pineapple plantations bathed in a warm sun flare. The entire architecture of those huge fields is heavily dictated by auxins, which drive the stems upward and the roots downward. But on a micro level, picture a pristine, clean laboratory setting with just a single plant stem sitting in rooting hormone. Whether we're talking about entire sprawling acres of agriculture, or literally one tiny isolated cutting trying to establish its very first roots in a glass beaker, auxins are the foundational building blocks dictating that structural growth. Moving right along, let's see how this builds with our second promoter, gibberellins. Have you ever seen a cabbage plant suddenly, seemingly overnight, shoot a massive stalk straight up into the air? Well, that process is called bolting, and it looks like a real-life time-lapse. Gibberellins are the chemical trigger behind this sudden, dramatic upward elongation. They flood the plant system and command the stem to stretch upward at lightning speed. It creates this vibrant, almost magical upward thrust to ensure the plant can flower and reproduce before its time runs out. It's wild to watch. And then we hit cytokinins, which drive a process called cytokinesis. Keep that rapid momentum in your mind as we look at this. This is where the actual physical division happens. Plant cells are constantly splitting and replicating in this elegant, fluid motion. One cell becomes two, two become four, dividing and multiplying in a brilliant, beautiful cascade of microscopic creation. That is cytokinins at work, literally building the living tissue of the plant right before our eyes. Section 2. The growth inhibitors, the survival brakes. But here's the thing. Continuous explosive growth isn't always safe. Actually, scratch that. If a plant only grew, it would quickly exhaust its resources and die. And so the language has to change. The pace must drop. We enter the realm of the growth inhibitors. When the environment turns hostile, like when water vanishes or when winter approaches, the plant must dramatically slow down its perception of time, conserving every last ounce of energy just to endure. Enter abscisic acid. This is the ultimate survival mechanism. It's quite literally the stress hormone of the botanical world. When abscisic acid floods the system, the high-speed ticking of growth completely halts. The plant hunkers down. It creates a heavy, resonant pause in the plant's life cycle. It's a deep, slow command that basically says, stop growing, stop expanding, and protect what we have. It fundamentally shifts the entire priority of the organism from expansion to self-preservation. Compare all that vibrant growth we just talked about to a completely different reality, a somber, desolate desert. The leaves are wilting, but look closely at a single leaf pore, a stoma, slowly and deliberately locking shut. The plant is actively sealing itself off from the outside world just to trap its moisture inside. Abscisic acid is reading the drought conditions and literally locking the plant's doors to keep it alive.
And finally, we look at ethylene. This is another incredible inhibitor, but one with a very different purpose, ripening. Ethylene commands the end of the growth cycle and the beginning of the fruit's final stage. Just follow the timeline here. It starts with hard green tomatoes. Then, ethylene gas triggers a massive chemical transition inside the fruit, breaking down acids and creating sugars. Finally, you're left with soft, vibrant red fruit. Ethylene orchestrates this entire aging and ripening process, basically ensuring the plant seeds become appealing enough to be eaten and dispersed by animals.
Section 3. The perfect balance, harmony of growth and preservation. So the really crucial point we need to take away from all this is a plant is never just doing one thing. It's constantly listening to the rapid, high-frequency demands of the growth promoters while simultaneously weighing the deep, cautious warnings of the growth inhibitors. It all comes down to this perfect, harmonious balance. As the quote says, "The life of a plant is not passive. It is an active, delicate balancing act between the drive for explosive growth and the strict necessity of preservation. Every second of every day, the plants sitting on your windowsill, the trees lining your street, the crops feeding the world, they are actively communicating. They're processing thousands of chemical signals, reacting to temperature, light, water, and stress in real time. They're engaged in a constant, hidden dialogue of survival." Which leaves us with this final thought. We so often look at the natural world as just a static backdrop to our own lives. But if a simple plant, a completely stationary organism without a brain, can orchestrate such a breathtakingly complex chemical language just to survive, what other hidden intelligences are operating right beneath our feet, just waiting to be understood? It really makes you look at a simple blade of grass in a completely different way, doesn't it?